Buongiorno a tutti! Today I want to share with you the two fundamental keys that will make Italian make sense from day one and save you from so much confusion later on. Now, once you get this right, everything else will fall into place. I've explained this concept before in several videos and of course in my courses, but I thought it would be a good idea to put them together so that you can get these right, ideally even before you embark on your Italian learning journey. And if you're not a total beginner, nessun problema. This will still be a useful refresh for you. At the end of the video, let me know in the comments which one of these two keys was the biggest help for you, or if there's any other aspect of Italian that still confuses you. Ok, iniziamo. Let's begin. Now, when learning Italian, the first most important habit that I always recommend, I always encourage students to develop immediately is what I call the zoom in habit. What do I mean with that? Here it is. Zoom in on the ending of Italian words first. Every time you read a sentence or you listen to something in Italian, pay attention, pay extreme attention to the ending of all the words as the first thing that you do. Why? Because that's where the top two keys for understanding Italian lie. So here they are. Key number one, gender of nouns. In English, if you take a word like the word good, that stays the same no matter what. It's always good. A good book, a good person, a good animal, a good whatever. In Italian, we have 4 different versions of the translation of the word that translates good, which is buono. But we actually have 4 different forms for that. So if you want to say good in Italian, you can say that as buono, buona, buoni, and also buone. This is the first thing that confuses all beginners when they approach Italian. But why is that so? That's because in Italian, we have something called gender of nouns. In Italian, every noun has a gender, which is either masculine or feminine. Please notice that this applies to everything. When I say everything, I mean even physical objects have a gender in Italian. Even abstract concepts have a gender in Italian. Each noun in Italian has a gender, and that can be masculine or feminine. Italian inherited this from Latin, the language of ancient Rome, and so we still have this distinction. So the point is, how do you tell the gender? You look at the ending. The ending is where the information lies. So that's why I tell you, you need to develop the habit of looking at the ending of words first thing. Let me show you some examples. Let's take the Italian word for vase. That's vaso. Vaso ends in o. And the general rule in Italian is that whenever you have a word ending in o, that's masculine. So remember, vaso ends in o, maschile, masculine. Let's see another word. The word for dish. Piatto. Piatto. That ends in o, so is masculine, maschile. Okay, let's see another word. The word for house, which is casa. Casa does not end in o, ends in a. Therefore, it's not masculine, but it's feminine. A is the common ending for feminine nouns. Another example of a feminine noun is a word that everyone knows around the world, which is pizza. Pizza is feminine. Just 2 more examples how we say book in Italian. That's libro. So look at the ending. What's telling you? It's telling you that it is masculine. Libro è maschile in italiano. L'ultima parola, let's take a little bit more space, is the word for apple. In Italian, apple is mela. Quindi, so, è femminile. Va bene? Perfetto. Now, this is the general pattern, and of course there are exceptions. Now, probably one other thing that you will learn very soon with Italian is that we have plenty of exceptions. But the best way to deal with those exceptions is that you, as an absolute beginner, when you're at the beginning of your journey, focus only on the general patterns. You really learn them, you really start applying them, and in the future, when you will get to the exceptions, they will be easier to handle because you have your foundations right from the beginning. Okay, so for the beginning, just focus on these two main patterns first. A femminile, O maschile. Now, in Italian, nouns also change for the plural form. This is another difference with English. In English, the general rule is that you add an S. In Italian, again, we don't add anything, we just change the ending. So let's see some of these words. We change the ending depending on the ending of the singular form. So if the word ends in O, the general rule is that we change that into I, in Italian I, to make it plural. So vaso, vase, diventa, becomes vasi. Because can you see that I just changed the ending O into the ending I, da O a I. That's how you make the plural in Italian. Vaso diventa vasi. Let's see these again with other words. Piatto diventa, becomes piatti. Now, for feminine nouns, the general rule is that the A goes into the E, so I in English. Quindi casa diventa case. Pizza, come casa, same as casa, diventa pizze. Libro, how do we change that to make it books? So from libro, book, I was going to say that. I'm not going to say that. You guess. Libro goes into libri to make it plural. Perfetto. And how do we say apples? One apple is mela. Apples is mele. Molto bene. Let's type this way. Okay. So again, this is the general pattern. We have exceptions to this rule too, but for now, if you're a total beginner, please, please, please only focus on this pattern, which is O goes into I, so O diventa I in Italiano, and E goes into I, which in Italian is A diventa E. Perfetto. Now, by the way, the easier way to review these rules and all the examples I'm showing you is to use the PDF that I prepared for this lesson. I put a lot of work in preparing PDFs for you for every lesson here on YouTube, and so that you can easily review all the rules, but especially all the phrases and all the examples, because it takes time and practice. So take advantage of that and download the PDF I prepared for you. The link, as always, will be in the description of this video. Ok, andiamo avanti. Let's move on. This was key number 1 of Italian that you need to get right from the very beginning, the gender of nouns. The second key is verb conjugation, and this is something where a lot of total beginners struggle. So I will try to make this as easy and clear as possible. So let's talk. We're talking about verbs. Verbs are the words that describe actions in a sentence. In English, again, things don't really change. If you want to talk about the act of reading, you say, I read, you read, we read. Can you see that the word remains the same? The only exception is when you say he or she, because you had an S in there. He reads or she reads. In Italian, guess what? The ending changes for every subject. So for every doer, for every person that does the action, whether it's I, you, he, she, etc., the ending of the verb will change. This is what makes Italian feel so overwhelming at the beginning, but I'm going to help you with that. So let's see an example. Let's take the verb for to speak, which is parlare. Oops. When you see a verb like this in Italian, that's called the infinitive form, which is the standard form you need to memorize first. It's like, say, to memorize to speak. That's the general form. So parlare is the infinitive in Italian. But then if I need to say I speak, I will say io parlo. And here is where the verb already changes from infinitive, which is the general form that you will find in dictionaries, parlare to speak, to the conjugated verb, which is io parlo. I speak. If I want to say you speak, that will be tu parli. So tu means you and parli means speak for tu, for you. Can you see that we change from o to I? Parlo, parli. That ending is changing because the subject is changing. It's not io, but it's you, tu. That's what we call verb conjugation in Italian. Let me show you more examples for parlare. Io parlo, I speak. Tu parli, you speak. Lui, lei parla, he or she speaks. Noi parliamo, we speak. Voi parlate, you plural, so you all speak. And last, loro parlano, they speak. Can you see that we have 7 different endings? That's what verb conjugation is in Italian. Let me show you this in a real sentence. Let's suppose I want to say I speak Italian. I will need to say io parlo italiano. If you want to say she speaks Spanish, that will be lei parla spagnolo. Last example, if we want to say we speak English, noi parliamo inglese. So these are a really important practical application in Italian because this is how you build sentences. So you need to take these into great account from the very beginning. Now, something that I want you to notice that's very important. The ending of a verb will change. First, for every subject, so the person who's doing the action. 2, for every tense, which means the time of the action. If the action is in the present, it will have specific endings. If the action is in the past, it will have some other specific endings. And finally, so number 3, the ending of the verb will change for every group of verbs. What are group of verbs? In Italian, we have 3 main groups of verbs, and they are the group of verbs ending in are. So let me show you these in another page. Allora, we have 3 endings, 3 main endings for verbs in Italian, depending on how the infinity ends. Again, the information is packed in the ending. The first group is the are verbs, so verbs that end in are. Per esempio, parlare. The second group is the verbs that end in ere. For example, the verb leggere. Can you see that the ending is different infinitive? And finally, we have verbs ending in ire, like the verb dormire. So leggere means to read and dormire means to sleep. And dormire has a different ending than leggere and parlare. Those are called the 3 conjugations in Italian, the 3 groups of verbs. The are verbs, the ere verbs, and the ire verbs. Each one of these groups will have their own specific endings. That's why Italian feels so overwhelming at the beginning, because the ending of verbs will change depending on these 3 points. Who does the action, when that person does the action, and what's the group of the verb. Is it an are verb, is it an ere verb, or is it an ire verb? This is what conjugation is. When you hear the word conjugation in your class, in your textbook, that's what they're talking about. Now, I'm going to include examples of conjugations for present tense for all these 3 verbs in my PDF, so please refer to that if you want to see parlare, leggere, and dormire all conjugated in present tense. Of course, there's also something called irregular verbs, like in English, where the endings can be slightly different. But again, my recommendation at the beginning is just learn the regular ones and just learn present tense. You have no idea how far present tense in Italian can take you, because it's used way more than in English. So if you use present tense, it already enables you to say a lot and make your own sentences from the very beginning. Please don't try to master all verb conjugations at once. You will only end up freezing because it's too much to take at once. Focus on one, master one, which I recommend is present tense of regular verbs, and then move on when you feel that you have really absorbed that. Okay, so now that we have seen this, you can really understand why I told you at the beginning that the very first habit that you need to develop is what I call my zoom in habit. Always zoom in on the ending of words first in Italian. If you develop this habit, this is going to make everything much easier, because with nouns, it will tell you the gender and number. So whether the noun is masculine or feminine, or whether it's singular or plural. With verbs, it will tell you who is doing the action and when. So start doing this now and keep doing this all the time until it becomes second nature. We Italian native speakers are so trained to do this. We don't have to think about that anymore, but we did think about that at the beginning. So this way, by developing this habit, you will train your brain to notice what's important, both when you are consuming Italian, like for example, reading, listening, or watching something in Italian, but also when using your Italian. So when you're actually actively writing and speaking, if you train your brain to pay attention to this when consuming, you will do this naturally, spontaneously when you are using your Italian. Okay, now you have these two essential keys and one smart habit to start your Italian learning journey on the right foot from day one. Now let me know in the comments which one of these two keys was the biggest help for you, or is there any other aspect of Italian that confuses you? I always love to hear from your comments how my videos are helping you in your journey. Ok, per oggi è tutto. It's all for today. I'll see you in the next video. Ci vediamo nel prossimo video. Ciao da Valentina.